We're in the next part. Hey, what's up? Please go check out the previous part to gauge your bearings, okay? You're gonna have to get the context there. Otherwise, if you just take from here going forward, you'll lack the context, but you won't. I mean, there'll be some understanding given you in this part alone, but you know, it's just better to have the context. Anyway, whatever. Let's just get back into the point of what I was talking about, South Africa, and how destroyed and devastated it is. I just want to put it out there that, like the rest of us, you release methane when you fart, South Africans, especially black people. Like the rest of us, when people prick you, you bleed, so you can actually die. Like the rest of us, yeah, you will cease to exist if you don't inhale the same air. Like the rest of us, you will fail a test if you don't study. And so like the rest of us, you will endure poverty if you don't work. And so therefore expect, South Africa, that given that you're not working on your character, you filthy animals, you understand that you are going to ultimately be despised by all of Africa. And then you're going to want your allies back that were sober instead of the crazy ones that are busy jihading everybody in the Middle East. You're going to want sober allies. You're going to want Israel as an ally back. You're going to want America as an ally back. You're going to want much of Europe back as an ally. Because right now you are standing against all the countries that have some semblance of rationale in the way that they think in comparison to the ones that you're allied with. And that is going to come at a time, like I said, when you need them most, but when nobody's trying to be with you. You can't be only South Africa of the whole world, all saver. You can't just be this person that plays for all teams. You can't. You cannot have the principles that you have, which are none at all. You're flaccid and fluffy, you're on shaky ground, and expect to be loyally held fast to by anyone. Because something of yours is going to make you get turned away. I'm just saying, okay? Random bafunari walking around Lamkatweni with no principles. You made out of me pretty much one of them victims of xenophobia here in Africa. You experienced me through what it's like to be Ethiopian living in Deep Sluit. You experienced me through what it's like to be Ethiopian selling phones in downtown Joburg. You experienced me through what it is like to be a Nigerian in downtown Joburg. Just chilling with my Nigerian clothing, having a conversation with a fellow Nigerian, and having a student from Wits walk by and just look at them like they stink as they're talking innocently. Who in the world under heaven is killing all of your women in this country, especially within the black community? Please, I need to know. Who's killing your women? Gender-based violence is a problem in South Africa. Everybody knows that, if at all they do any research globally, if you're not from this country. South Africa has been declared the worst country to live in as a woman. So no female should be trying to move here, because you might just find yourself 6 feet under. It's that basic. But who is killing South African women? I'm sorry, no, it's not the Nigerians. It's not the Zimbabweans. It's not the Congolese. It's not the guys from Senegal. It is not anyone but South African men. You are the ones butchering our fazi. Who is this? It is all these random men in South Africa that are laying waste South African women. You are officially the worst country for women to live in. South African women who woke up to realize or to discover that, what do they call this thing? Xenophobia is rubbish. It's a dump site. South African black women who woke up to realize, as I finally woke up to realize it, that to dislike men from other African countries, black men from other South African countries, those who woke up to realize that xenophobia against them is nasty, have this for a testimony, please. Can we have a discussion? Can we just have a conversation, South Africa, so you can understand, it's you're done for. You're literally done for. And so, just like those like model chicks in my complex that ignored me and rolled their eyes when I walked into the room when I tried to greet them because they saw that I was a South African woman, and so therefore automatically assumed that I would give them attitude, and so therefore gave me attitude first. That's what I'm doing with you now. When you walk into a room, I just roll my eyes because I expect you to be shallow. I expect you to have no context or understanding as to the global landscape. I expect you to be ignorant. And so I look at you like, hey, here's another one of these little insects walking in, yet they think they're king. They think they're queens. That's how I look at South Africans now. Literally, I think you see you defecate ice cream, yet you stank like the rest of us. when we defecate. I look at you like you are naive and ignorant in comparison to the glory of the rest of Africa. Now, I apologize. Like, I have no respect for you. You did that to yourselves, South Africa. You literally did that to yourselves. South African women, black women in particular, who make a decision to stop dating South African men and date African men, and not South African though, right? They have a similar testimony, and this has been a similar testimony from Dalala Paya. It's been a similar testimony from Malo Banyana Muna. Ever since I was like 20, 21, 22, I've been hearing this on a loop, and when I was being told these testimonies and they all were aligned with each other, I did not want, Mina personally, to test it because I was still xenophobic. I was still messed up thanks to the silly country. Do you understand? I wouldn't take it, even though I had experienced what South African women were suffering at. Their testimonies are all uniform. Do you understand what I'm saying? And what exactly were their testimonies? African men that are not South African know how to treat a woman. That's what I got. That's what I got. Every South African woman that basically defected from the dating pool to date non-South African men that are also from Africa all had the same testimony to give about their treatment at the hands of African men that are not South African. They all in unison, in concert, in agreement, said that they got far better treatment in relationships from they got far better treatment in relationships from African men than they did from South Africans. They all sang the same song, that South African men don't know how to treat women, and these women, us black women, would not have known the difference until we were treated like women by other men in Africa. I heard this from more women than I can count on my one hand, and they were all of varying ages. Some were older, some were my age. But I was so xenophobic that I imagined that these women that dated Nigerian men, like Congolese men, whatever, I imagined that they were just like what happens in the white community when white girls date black men, and there is still racist sentiment against that in their community. How it is that they get called, as a result of being with black men, whores. They get called whores. They get called experimental. And so when a white chick is like, I prefer to be with a black guy, and then other white chicks who are still racist say to her, goodness, that like you're a whore, because you're obviously trying to be with a black man because of their manhood or whatever, or you're experimental, when this chick is just actually just genuinely in love with the guy. Similar sentiment dwells in South African women, or at least it did at the time. I don't know if that's changed, but I doubt it. Similar sentiment dwells in South African women about African men that are not from South Africa. There was a sentiment that these chicks that dated foreign guys, it was literally a taboo. It was a stigma. These chicks that dated foreign guys, they wanted them for their money and for their manhood. That they were just chasing after nothing but that. And so they did not see women who were falling in love, who were genuinely just excited to be in a relationship with a guy. They looked at them as these whores of Johannesburg. Baratang bo antagonize. That's how South African women basically responded to black South African women dating non-South African black African men. Yeah, the exact same phenomenon in the white community, with white girls being accused of being whores for dating black guys. What happened with African men? And I ran with that rhetoric. I'm doing edits if you're wondering what I'm looking at up there. I ran with that rhetoric, and so despite getting testimonies all over the show from South African women that claimed that when they dated guys from everywhere else in Africa, they were treated better. When they dated Zimbabwean guys, they were loved, they were respected, they were honored, they were revered, they were regarded, they were wined, they were dined, they were romanced. For us, it was like, yo, hi, gay. Yeah, Obi all over. She's a village bicycle. Obi's in Nigeria, as if, oh goodness, it like, so? Well, I mean, really, nobody should be fornicating, but you get my point. You understand my point. Yeah, that's what under heaven it is. That's how we, as South Africans, South African women, used to think, used to feel. So despite getting all of these rave reviews about non-South African black men. Despite getting all of these rave reviews about them, I mean, I was not prepared to be with one because I thought South Africa was the best. And I imagined that I didn't want to defect like a typical racist white girl that is disinterested even in the slightest in experimenting with a black man the way that her best friend has, who has turned a whore overnight. I was just like that. So I'm in Nandaba, and understand this was coming from a woman, all right? By the time that I had collected this data, I was maybe like 21, 22, that I would, where all this information was just coming at me, that non-South African black men treat women better. When all this data was coming at me, I had at that stage experienced, listen to this, my first love, the guy that I ever told I love you to first, that broke my virginity as well, used to tell me on the phone that, I remember at the time they did public phone, so I had to go to ePhone, put some money in there and call this bugger. He used to tell me every time I would tell him I love him, not every time, but every so often when I would tell him I love him on the phone, Eki patalang karanta 50 cents, having taken a walk as well at night, risking my life because I had to wait for him to get home, seeing as he didn't have a cell phone and neither did I. It was still those days, okay? I'm out here at 8:30, 7 at night at a public phone, go Naturina. At the time we were living in Naturina. Risking my life as a schoolgirl. I was like 17. Do you understand? Yeah. At this time, having called my boyfriend, the boyfriend of which I had to be the one to, I guess, initiate that phone call because I didn't have my own phone, and at the time my mom had not yet put in a landline, seeing as we were newly moved into Naturina. So I had to go and call him, and I had to wait for 7, 8 for him to get home to get him. You get that context. Told him I love him, and he would tell me, don't say it so very much, man, you're gonna wear it out. Telling that to a teenage girl that's like heavily like whooped. Heartbreak like no man's business. And this was my first love. First guy I ever told I loved. And like I told you guys, he was the guy who took my virginity. And he flat out used to tell me that don't say you love me so much, you might just wear it out. That's South African guys for you. The same guys of which when you break up with them will then call you from here to Timbuktu trying to get back together, and you would wonder, Kanti, you like me enough to follow me around trying to get back together? Why didn't you act it when we were together? Why were you trying so hard to make me feel like you don't reciprocate feelings? I mean, why are you literally panting like a dog when I leave? Because you act while we are together. Ingati, really, you could do better and you won't miss me. I've experienced cognitive dissonance and shock or confusion so many times when guys tried to get back together with me after I would break up with them, because they literally acted like like they did not care about me until I dumped them. That's a South African dating experience. You won't know you're loved until you try to leave. Okay, so my first love used to tell me that I mustn't tell him I love him so much, I might just wear it out. Okay, the guy before him, right? Like, no, not before, after. The guy after my first love, after the guy who broke my virginity, once got angry at me because I would not have sex where there were no condoms in sight. I was a young woman not trying to get a disease, and I knew this guy was cheating. I knew he was busy all over the show. And it's not like I was trying to deny him the deed. I just was not trying to do it without a condom. And he threw his toys out the cot like a little baby. Like the big bad wolf. He was huffing and puffing and blowing the house down, screaming, telling me about how it is that I don't trust him. Why happy? And I capitulated. And that capitulation of mine caused me so much fear for the next like 2 years, where I was scared that I was HIV positive and out of my mind in fear that I was sick. I did not even take a test for those reasons because I didn't want to die, because something in me knew that if I had tested positive, I was going to commit suicide. And a South African boyfriend did that to me. Well, thank God I did not test positive, but that's the kind of like dating experience that you get from South African black men. I can't vouch for white guys because I've never been with one. Okay, very well. That was that, okay. Then there was a boyfriend of mine that I dated. Let me think. There was then a guy that I'm trying to think. like relationships that were more serious than not, because others were just passing flings, and even there was just weird treatment of my person, like strange treatment of my person. But the ones that especially take a trophy are the ones where I was now serious with a guy. The one Okie refused to hold my hand as we were walking to the taxis to go home. All right, I spent the day with him, and he refused to hold my hand as we were walking to the taxis, and also hug me when we were saying goodbye at the taxis, because he did not want his boys to think he was whipped. And then after he said that, I looked at him on some, are you freaking serious? Are you freaking serious? And then he changed his story and said, no. It's just that I've once seen one of my friends getting slapped by a taxi driver for kissing his girlfriend. So I don't want to get slapped by a taxi driver because I'm holding your hand. Yeah, I kind of let that one go. And then another guy, this one was not serious. I tried to maybe take this guy seriously, but then I realized, but I remember we were having a conversation in the car. It was me, him, my cousin, and her boyfriend. And we somehow ended up talking about slapping of girls, like hitting women, and how it is that, batong smart bunny slapped his girlfriend, wada. Alright? And then I fagazad and raised my voice, and I was like, yo, if any guy ever did that to me, it's like, something like, no man ever gonna do that to me. I said that in front of at that stage, my boyfriend that was sitting next to me at the back of this car. And then he looked at me on some irimpe. What does irimpe mean in English? Dare me. Yeah. It's a form. There's nothing else there's no other word that I can find in the English vocabulary that can describe it more accurately. It's not exactly like dare me, but it's like, a trigger word. Yeah. On some dare me and see if I'm not gonna slap you. Like, he literally looked at me with a very serious look on his face and was like, rimpe. I was like, ain't no man ever gonna hit me. And this guy was like, rimpe, with that look on my face, on some dare me. And I didn't. I was like, I just looked at him on some, I was confused. I was like, whoa, like, yes, it was so shocking that came out of him. I did not dare him. I did not provoke him, because I could tell that something horrible was going to come out of that. But despite me not provoking him, he took his hand, and then he was like, to me. He did that, and then tapped my hand, my face. He did not wham me. He didn't slap me. He didn't actually hit me in a way that was painful. But he was basically telling me I could hit you if I wanted to. He first said, irimpe. I did not respond. And then he raised his hand and then tapped my face with that serious face. He was not smiling. He was like, yeah. He was like, like, yeah, with a very aggressive look on his face when he tapped my face with, his fingers. And I realized at that stage that I was dating somebody that, if at all, I pushed him to the edge. If I provoked him, my cat is getting irritated by some other cat, and I don't want to get up and go deal with that. I realized that if I had pushed him to the right level, that guy would hit me. That he would make me like one of those random chicks at Gasinja that just get whammed at parties and what have you. And that's one of the things that contributed to me walking away from that relationship, because I'd never been with a guy that's ever hit me before, and I wasn't about to go and change those statistics. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I experienced. The guy who told me irimpe. All right. I would then go on right ahead to date a guy that was a closet homosexual, but that's not the issue. The issue was in the fact that one time he thoroughly came to, there was another one, by the way. You remember the same one, that the one with the taxi driver story, saying that he doesn't want to get hit by a taxi driver for kissing his girlfriend or holding his girlfriend's hand. Yeah, one time he told me that you better not cheat on me, because then if you do, I'm going to get a girl that's far hotter than you and then come to the store where you work. Yeah, no. This guy, how it is that I met him, I was working at Stanley B in Rosebank. Okay, so that's like some retail store, clothing store. I was a casual at it. I was a part-time while I was studying at Wits. And he walked into the store looking for my colleague, who was his friend from his hood. But my colleague was not in, right? And after, he was like, so where's, let's say his name was Tepo. So is Tepo here? And I was like, no, Tepo, I think he's on his lunch break. And then he was like, oh snap, I was looking for Tepo. Who are you? And there was quite a bit of chemistry. And so that's how we met, right? I gave him my number that night. that day, and he tried to call me later that night, but it wasn't my number. At the time, I didn't have a cell phone. I don't know why I kept on not having a cell phone. I think I'd lost it or something. So I gave him my mother's cell phone number, and he was gonna call me on my mom's cell, and my mom was gonna give me the phone. Right? Yeah, there was a time in history when people could actually survive without phones. Okay, whatever. Yeah, already cool. My mom answered hello with a mommy voice, and this dude felt like, yo, this chick, she gave me the wrong number. He heard a voice, voice, an older woman, and so he basically hung up on some, like, how dare she give me the wrong number? Like, literally, we flirted, we had such chemistry, and she gave me the wrong number. But then something made him try again, right? Because he, I think, put the pieces of the puzzle together that maybe she gave me her mom's number. So then he was like, can I speak to Karabo? And then ultimately my mom gave me the phone, right? And when we were on the phone, well, initially he was like, hey, how are you? Nah, I'm good. And he was flirting and we were cool. That's how we started dating, type establishment thing. But when I went to go see him, he used to live in Togoza. When I went to go see him, now we were more sort of we were dating now, all right? He was my boyfriend, I was his girlfriend. So now he was comfortable to tell me what in the world under heaven was going through his mind. And he flat out said to me that, Yazzie, that first time when I called you and I got through to your mom and I heard that older woman's voice and I hung up, I was so angry, and I told myself that I was going to come to the store there where you work at Stanley with some chick that's far hotter than you and make you see that ain't no woman mess with me like that. Like, he proper said that to his girlfriend. He's like, I was gonna bring a woman that was hotter than you and make you see that no one does that to me. That's South African men for you. Like, first of all, you are just telling me that you are gonna use a hotter woman than me. Just the fact that you're busy calling some other woman hotter than me when I'm chilling with you evidences that you have no regard for my emotions and how I feel about you thinking anyone is hotter than me, since I'm currently your girlfriend. Oh, South African men. Anyway, that whole thing with the hotter than you thing, it was not the first time I ever heard it coming from a guy that was my boyfriend. I then dated a closet homosexual. So, I mean, really and truly, like, that was just problematic on its own, but there are gays everywhere all over Africa, so let me not just say it's a South African issue. But the fact that the South African government has legalized it to a point where gay people now want to move to our country because it's easy for them to marry here, that is yet another problem of how it is that this country of ours has been handed over, evidence of how it is that this country of ours has been handed over to a reprobate mind. Anyway, whatever. This closet homo guy, Aja tells me, right, one day he is, his mother liked me, and his mother saw him chilling with some chick at the gate, Kohabon, all right? And then he tells me that, because we were actually quite close, even though he was gay. He was like a BFF, whatever, type establishment thing. And then he's like, Yazi they like saw me with some other woman the other day, and she asked me, Karabo, where's Karabo? And then she asked me, where's Karabo? And I told her, she's around, why are you asking? And my mother was like, hey, busy when you've got somebody that is so rare that you yeah. And then he went on right ahead to say that he responded to his mother and said that, Ma, don't underestimate me, because if I want a hotter girl, I can get one any day. I just choose to stay with Karabo. That's like, how in the world do you say that to your girlfriend? South African men, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just sorry. I apologize. I'm literally out of my mind with sorrow. The way that I'm so sorry. Like, nah. He went and told his mom that don't underestimate me, I can get a hotter woman. It's my choice if I decide that I want to sprawl these streets. Don't control my relationship. But I'm staying with Karabo because I want to. It's my choice and not yours. You don't dictate what's happening to me. I remember just thinking, that's information you should have just kept in your own head, because you've literally just offended me right now. You've just insulted me. That's South African men for you. And then I went on right ahead. After that guy, I dated some dude for 5 whole years. That was the longest relationship that I have ever been in. Okay? And this, like, a beastly animal, alright, wasn't always beastly, but that was what I would imagine to be the best relationship that I have ever been in light of how it is that I was treated. And yet this is how I was treated. It was the best. There was nothing better before. There was no one that had ever been better towards me before that particular date. It was literally the apex. It was the height of Mount Kilimanjaro or Mount Everest. And this is how I got treated in that environment at the height of Mount Everest. In the beginning of our relationship, he took drugs with his friends while I was there and basically made a fool out of me and one of his boys' middies that they were sober. They disappeared into a little corner and took drugs and then made fools out of us the whole night, with us wondering, why are they so hyperactive and we are so chill when we've all been drinking the same alcohol? Only for me to discover later on, I guess she went and discovered it on her own in her own private space, that this guy had taken this stuff because he became impotent later on. And that was like the very early stages of the relationship. It was the beginning. And this guy, this might look like Karabo, everybody, like guys, when everybody's young, drugs. Like, you know that these things happen. It does not mean that it's a character flaw in a country. No. Understand, we had a conversation about this on our first date. He shared with me how it is that he has a history with narcotics, and I was like, if that's the case, then this relationship needs to end now, because I'm not going to be with you. I'm not going to be with a guy that one day I might end up, burying because of the fact that he passed away from a drug overdose. It became an issue that we spoke about from the very get-go, and on literally it would be perhaps 2 dates down the line from that date, or 3 days down the line from that date, he did the very thing that I said was a deal breaker, with me present, but without me seeing. And it was both him and his friend that did it to both of us, me and his midi, me and the other woman. We were both in the dark. So we were both being mistreated by our boyfriends. We were both being taken for a ride by our boyfriends. And it was that early in a relationship with a guy that the next day I nearly dumped him for that. And he pleaded with me to stay. And I was like, but if you were so scared to lose me, why did you go and walk in a deal breaker 3 dates or 4 dates into a relationship? Why did you walk that's like literally a deal breaker on the 4th date? On the 4th date. That's what's up. Yeah. The same guy then went on right ahead to tell me, when I asked him, which woman do you love the most? He decided to be like flat out honest and tell me that it was somebody other than me. Okay, so that broke my heart. That was the next thing. He then went on right ahead to, on our 1-year anniversary, far away in some like bushy house in Hartebeespoort, do the same thing to me that he did on our 4th date. That this time around, however, I was the only person in the dark, where some friend of his and his girlfriend and him took drugs while I was the only one that stayed sober. And the next morning they made me drive home because everybody was crashed from drug use. And I only found out when we got home that he did that to me. And he also suffered with impotence even then because of drug use. So on our anniversary, basically you should be putting all of your best feet forward because it's our 1-year anniversary, for crying out loud. He decided to walk in the deal breaker again because this time around he trusted that I was going nowhere. The same guy, when I remember one time I did something for him and then he was like, yo, you really love me, hey? And he said it with like a pomp and arrogance on some, this one is not going anywhere. One time he was acting a fool all up in my grill, and then his mother was like, hey, these guys' mothers, it's always the mothers. His mother was like, do better by Karabo, otherwise you're gonna lose her. Do you want me to call her on your behalf? Because clearly you don't know how to talk to your woman. And he told his mother, this is now his relay. He told me this. He was, after we got back together because we had broken up over some fight, he was like, during the time when we were fighting, my mom was trying to call you on some, trying to negotiate on my behalf, and I told her, God was my woman, I can handle my woman, I know how to talk to my woman. And all I could think about was, your mother was right, you were treating me badly, and you ought to have listened to her and respected the fact that she saw that you were about to destroy something good. But instead he walked in arrogance because he felt like he already had me and I was going nowhere. So he told his mom, relax, it's my woman, I'll deal with her. Yeah, that was my experience in the best relationship ever. Somewhere along the way in this like establishment, this man would then go on right ahead to stop listening to everything that I would say, despite me speaking, in order to please his friends. So he broke my heart in order to please his friends. I was the one that he was with. I was the one that he was sleeping with. I was the one that he was spending most of his time with. And he treated me like trash on behalf of people that he saw every so often. And that was a war I was fighting with him for the rest of the relationship until we broke up. He chose his friends over me. Yeah, like I said, that was the best relationship that I was in. He used witchcraft on a woman that had already given her her heart. She'd already given him his heart. She'd already given him her heart. And it wasn't broken. He tried to fix it. He did not win me with sorcery, but he saw it fit to keep me with it. Because he did not want to get his act together. He just wanted me to be a docile, namby-pamby, pulled by the nose, and like immobile, robotized Stepford girlfriend. That just took everything without ever raising an issue. He did not want to work on the relationship. He just wanted me to stick around despite everything he was hurting me doing. And so he used witchcraft to spiritually manipulate me to stay, because I was obviously with one foot out the door, given that he wouldn't get his act together. And that, dear human beings, is the way that a lot, and by a lot I mean a lot, it is likely hovering into the 60th percentile, maybe even pushing 70%, of how it is that black men in South Africa treat their girlfriends and wives. They keep us in a bunch with sorcery. All of our cries, all of our complaints, when we basically highlight issues in a relationship that people are supposed to come together and talk about, that a middle ground might be reached, whatever, so we can, reach consensus, compromise, whatever. Things that grown people do when they fight, they talk. Instead of talking and basically working on the relationship, changing something, seeing what we can do to make this thing work, seeing as we're currently in disagreement. They get exhausted with the complaints, the laments, somewhere along the way. And upon getting exhausted, decide that I don't want to lose this woman, but she's going to walk out if I don't do anything that she expects me to do. So I'm just going to keep her around in a trance-like state where she's a little bit of a zombie in the relationship and be the chief whip, sovereign, despot over her, while she just says, yes sir, yes sir. The way she is just so under a spell. We get spiritually manipulated by our boyfriends and our husbands to accept all the rubbish they give without them investing even a single fingernail into the relationship. With that being the way that we get treated, it is no wonder, therefore, it becomes a whole freaking breath of fresh air when you date a guy that's not out here bewitching every second day of yours in the relationship, and also a guy that is absolutely refusing to abandon guys in favor of his friend, and also a man that is absolutely refusing to honor where it is that his girlfriend or wife is coming from when they raise an issue. That, my dears, is a South African problem from what I have discovered, and not so much an African man problem, because of the fact that we also now in South Africa, as a result of resisting being treated like trash, using spells to try and subdue us, when we resisted, we then get met with an axe right here in the face. We get met with a knife right here in the heart. We get met with a gun right here in the head. We get met with a car over our bodies as we are walking out with suitcases packed and everything. When we say we are leaving, they literally laugh at us. The closet homosexual. I dumped him because, one, I had to leave, he was gay, but secondly, he made some other chick pregnant, so he really was trying to make it clear that he's not gay. Okay? Yeah. And after dumping him, he came to fetch his phone from me that he had left by mistake in my possession. And that's how I found out that he made some other chick pregnant, because she called him on this phone and yelled and argued with me on some dude pregnant. And I was like, you can keep him, Cranshap, he's gay. So I don't even know how you managed to get down with him, because I struggle. Anyway, whatever. All the best. Congratulations on your pregnancy. Goodbye. When he came to collect his phone, he laughed. Like, there is a scene like that in a song. I can't remember who the artist is, but the actors in the music video, I think it's a song by Ashanti, and the lead character female is Ashanti herself, but they cast Terrence Howard in the music video. Now I bet you know which one it is, and she's always trying. I think it's the one earlier. Oh baby, whatever. I stand corrected, and she's trying to leave. Right, this man. And this dude, then when she's busy screaming, leaving, he's laughing at her. He's literally laughing at her on some, she's throwing her toys at the cot. She'll be back. And then the mother goes off in his ear on some, how dare you treat my daughter like this? You're rubbish. And he then also laughs at the mom. And at the end of the song, Terrence Howard grabs this woman's bags and brings them inside the house because she's come back home. So basically he was laughing for good cause, because he knew she was coming back, and she did. That same thing that happened in that music video. Oh yeah, Ashanti. with Terrence Howard is exactly what happens to us at the hands of black men in this particular country. I can't speak. Maybe American men are also like that, but I can't accuse the rest of Africa. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, just an arrogance. And I have been laughed at by 2 guys when I dumped them. Two, 3. No, oh goodness, no, it's not 2 guys, it's 3. I have literally been laughed at hysterically by 3 guys after leaving them. The first one was a closet homosexual. When he came to fetch his phone and I was like, leave me alone, don't even talk to me, he was like, okay, sure, bye. And indeed, lo and behold, after 2 or 3 weeks, he was trying to come back because he thought all I needed to do was calm down. That's what happens when a man is spiritually manipulating you, or when he thinks that you're a done deal, you're banked in. My ex-boyfriend as well. At the end of our relationship, at first, initially, he used to freak out when I would leave him. And he would try to come back. That's why that was the best relationship, and even then it was horrible still. But towards the end, at the very last fight we had that never resulted in a reconciliation, he was laughing at me all the way through. All the way through. All of the toys I was throwing out the cot, the guy was he was 5 seconds away from rolling on the floor. He treated me like I'm just this thing. I'm throwing my toys out the cot. He got so arrogant. And well, I mean, still to this day, he's trying to get back into my life. They get shocked when you don't. You know what makes a man that arrogant to laugh at you when you're leaving him? It's knowing that you're coming back. Why? Because he's manipulating you with witchcraft. And then the next guy that would laugh at me after dumping him was the one that I dated at MTN for 2 seconds. He's recently just spited me with Korobela or something stupid, in a dream where I was having sex with him. I spoke about that dream yesterday. It was disgusting. You're gonna have to listen to my content. That dude, we dated for just 2 months. And I dumped him eventually because he told me the audacity. Yeah, that's another thing. This is a guy that called himself a Christian. And one time in the evening, first of all, I was not supposed to be spending all that time in his apartment making out and kissing and what have you. So God, of course, wanted me out of that relationship. This happened once I was a Christian. All right. I'm out here now. I'm literally at the doorstep of his house at around 11 p.m. at night, going home. And he is basically seeing me out. All right. And then he looks at me. I waited for him in the hallway or whatever of his house. And it's not a hallway. It makes it sound like it was a mansion, but there was a small little passage on the exit in the way to getting out. It kind of resembles a hallway. Anyway, whatever. This guy. So he was getting his phone or something because Onato, he was gonna kappa me outside or whatever. So he wanted to first grab something, and so I waited for him there to come, right? He then comes, and as he's walking towards me with this look of endearment in his face, almost like, oh my goodness, I'm so in love with you. So I felt really blessed to be looked at by him like that. He then comes towards me as he's walking, and he sort of kind of reaches out his hand. I could tell that he wanted to stroke my cheek or my face or whatever and say, bye baby, I'll see you tomorrow, and then walk me out the house. That's what I was expecting. And he did exactly all that like clockwork, but instead of saying, I'm gonna miss you, or you're beautiful, or I love you, whatever, he just looked at me with so much endearment. I was expecting a freaking compliment or just some beautiful goodbye. Oh guys, that's this joy like instead, he grabbed my face, indeed my cheeks. This was his hand, and he was stroking my face, and he's like, yo baby, I've been through stuff. We've been through stuff as women. He strokes me. He's like, yo baby, with that D'Angelo look on his face, out here looking like he's about to love me into eternity. And then he tells me that I'm only beautiful at night. That's what that means, by the way. Yo baby, looking at me with so much love in his eyes. Yes, guys. I was like, did this guy literally just say that to me? That's a man that's trying to make you feel like you're beautiful, but you're not that beautiful, or you're not that great, or whatever. Yes, my heart was so broken. It landed like a thud in my heart, and immediately I was like, I just left. I didn't dump him there and then. I just told him, open a gate for me, give me code, whatever. And when I got home, I texted him the breakup. I literally texted. I was like, you know what, dude, I'm sorry. Nobody, bye. This is it. We're done. He tried to, did he drop me off that evening at home? Or did I drive myself? Nah. Kingy, what in the world was going on there? All I know is that I had something in my possession that belonged to him, that I was with, that I took home. And he needed to get it the next day, but I dumped him. I broke up with him that evening. And this thing that was in my possession, he needed it. It was important, like a car key of his or something. I could save it. I just took something of his with by mistake. And he came to collect it. I didn't want to ever see him again, but I had to give him back his thing. Okay? And when he came, yes, he was walking there like, like, ingagara. Like, yeah, so he just he was even walking. Why wasn't he using his car? What was going on? I think his car was going in for repairs. I can't remember. Hence why likely I drove myself home that night. Otherwise, he would have been, I can't remember. All I know is that he came, got 2 series. Okay, and as I opened the complex gate, so for him, he was walking in like he basically was gliding, and he was all that in a bag of funny chips. And then he took his device from me, and he was like, so are we gonna talk or what? And the whole time as he's talking, he's like, he's giggling, like he's giggling. He's like, so are we gonna talk or what? Like, you still mad? Come go. Like he was literally laughing at me, and I was like, it's over, we are done. And I had that very serious look on my face, and he was just laughing at me on some I guess we'll talk later, wahamba. And the next week he would still continue to be like, are you still in your thing? Well, the relationship never recovered, we never got back together, but like the guy still kept on calling me makoti. He still like, yeah, he literally believed I was coming back. Why? Because he was manipulating me with witchcraft. This guy was busy with me hard, not spiritually, and he imagined it was only a matter of time before I ended up back in his life again. When I lost my job, he was still trying to be like, I'm sorry that you're going through this, baby, you're very strong. I'm like, dude, we're not together. We are not together. That's what's good. South African men are like that. They'll tell you, they will treat you like trash. They will laugh at you when you dump them. They won't take you seriously. Those are people that are leaning on sorcery in order to get the outcomes that they want in this world. And so when then that is your situation, that trust that when you're looking in the eye, somebody that trusts that they can just disrespect you as much as they want because you'll be back. That's not a man that can treat a woman. And if at all you resist, like I've resisted all those guys. The gay guy laughed at me. I never ended up back together with him. My ex-boyfriend laughed at me. Never ended up back together with him. The new dude that I dated at MTN for 2 months laughed at me. I never got back together with him. I never came back with any of these guys. When you don't then respond to their sorcery, that's when, like I said, you get an axe right there. You get a bullet right there. You get a knife right there. You get a car rolling over you as you try to walk out. As you try to drive out. As you try to pack your suitcases, that's when you end up 6 feet under. So South Africa is the worst country to live in as a woman. The gender-based violence is through the roof. And the gender-based violence has been an epidemic of the past couple of years, maybe decade. When I was 20, 21, that's when South African women were basically singing praises in my ear about how men from other countries in Africa, when they started dating them, they experienced this new whole world of romance and of love and of respect and of peace that they never knew before. And I was not prepared even in the slightest to humor that prospect. Why? Because I was xenophobic. And in my xenophobia, I imagined that I would be the tantamount of a whore if I dated a guy from another country. That xenophobia did flee from me, like altogether. I became friends with, like I told you guys, a Congolese man that was he was one of my very dear friends. He betrayed me though. Like I said, witchcraft is an African problem. It's a black man issue. Do you understand what I'm saying? But when it comes to mistreatment of women, just as a baseline personality, that is a South African problem. That is a South African problem. This dude from Congo, he put spells on me because of guys, it's a long story, another story for another day. But the guy didn't, I can't even, was it unrequited love? I never gave him a chance to ask me out. I refused for him to do it because it was going to ruin a very good friendship, whatever. But he got embittered because I was a trigger, because some ex-girlfriend of his that was a Christian went on and married another guy when he was out here playing around and not being serious with Jesus. And so when I came to Christ, he was like, not again am I going to deal with, so I triggered him and he slapped me with sorcery. Why in the world did you do that? Anyway, whatever, but like he was a better man than most, okay? That friend of mine, never in my life have I ever had a male friend that was so generous with his time, energy, money, effort towards a friend or friends. female friends that he was not romantically involved with. He was not like that only with me. I made an observation of the way he was with other of his female friends. He was a total gentleman in a way that I had never observed before. I did not know how he was with his girlfriend. There was this one white chick that he was dating because I never knew the girl and I never got to see him other than 1 or 2 times. He was very heavy into getting public displays of affection. Anyway, whatever. But like I never hung out with him and his girlfriend long enough to know how he was to his woman. But I knew that he was a really excellent guy friend to female friends, and he was ride or die and reliable in ways that South African men will be like, what's in it for me? Why should I come pick you up? Why should I do this for you? Why should I, hold this place? Why? He was just a gentleman. He was chivalrous. Thank you, that's the word that I'm looking for. He was chivalrous and he was a friend. He was chivalrous and he was a friend, like genuinely umngani, nothing else happening. And he wasn't like that only to me. He was like that to all the female friends that I observed him with around. He was like that towards all of us, and he was from Congo. So what is this? When I say that this mistreatment of women, basically South Africa is judged. It is the worst country to live in as a woman. It's got the worst, like the femicide, the gender-based violence, the slappings, the beatings, the korobela, the curses to manipulate a woman like a puppet on a string. It's a South African epidemic, and the guys are not even sweet, they're not even kind, they're rude. But that's the thing, if you're not working on your character, of course you're gonna need help from that stuff. From as early as when I was just 17 years old, I got told by a boyfriend that I must not tell him I love him so much because I'm wearing it out. That's South African men for you. So when you are like that, when you lack so much character, when all that lacks, when there's so much, when there is so much that leaves a lot to be desired in you as your baseline character, of course you're gonna need witchcraft. But witchcraft, when then people resist it and you're now indwelt by all of these demons, you are then going to graduate to murder. So now they're killing us because we are starting to not want to be with them anyway, even though they're so rude. They are murdering us even when they are abusive. Like, they keep on slapping us. And so when we want to get out, or when we fight back, or when we argue back, they kill us. They just murder us. We literally stay as South African women with some of the worst boyfriends on the planet. And then when we're finally finished, they then put us in the grave, or they significantly compromise our lives. My exes, and sometimes even guys I didn't date, did this to me. There's a guy, South African dude too, took me on a date and everything, had a crush on him during, like, proper. I told you guys that me and this guy, the two of us were like Jacques and Dej Loaf. I had a boyfriend, he had a girlfriend. However, my boyfriend and I broke up during one season because we were always on and off. And this guy decided that during that time that we were broken up, that he's gonna take me on a date. We went on it. I was prepared to completely walk away and never look back from that relationship to be with this guy, insofar as he was prepared to do the same thing. So can we get a room and we don't have to tell nobody? It's just me and it's just you, and what we're doing here is private. I know you really, really want it, but you belong to somebody else. Both want to be together, but we can't act on it. We were like Dej Loaf and Jacques, like proper. Yeah. However, that never really fruitioned into anything. I was going to leave my ex-boyfriend for that guy proper. I was gonna do it. I was in the world. I did not care about morals, not that much anyway. I was gonna do it insofar as this guy was prepared also to go out like that. However, we went on a date, all right. And on this date, first, like, he was also quite the gentleman, very romantic, like, yeah, that kind of guy. However, en route to the soccer stadium, it was like the date was a match, right? He was an account manager and he was entertaining clients, all right? On the weekend, he used to work for MTN. It was like the MTN 8 or whatever type establishment thing. This guy, so made a decision to take me on a date. Basically, he took me as his partner while he was entertaining clients. It was similar to, like, that whole Julia Roberts scene in Pretty Woman, where it is that she's entertaining, is it Mel Gibson, Richard Gere, at the horsing game. Yeah, but instead of it being horses, it was soccer. Yeah, we were entertaining some elite clients, Eziga MTN business clients, Eziga MTN, in the VIP section of Soccer City FNB Stadium. What do they call it? Yeah, that one that looks like a calabash. We were in the yeah, that's where we were at. So it was not like vuvuzela the whole time. It was like within some luxury joint. You get my point. And on the way there, this guy, so he decided that we're gonna use his car instead of use the the bus that that M10 was using to shuffle these people to the stadium type establishment thing. We get in his car, and I'm car sick. Okay, every so often I feel a little bit bilious when somebody's driving me. I'm not car sick when I'm driving, however, but when people are driving me, I sometimes feel some kind of way. And as soon as he got onto the highway and his vehicle, that inertia, like it just pulled me forward. I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm starting to feel low-key car sick. And he looked at me on some, okay, just don't vomit in my car. I was like, Fatunkai, this thing ain't finally. I thought you were decent. I was saying this to you not to warn you that I'm about to vomit in your car, but if you're gonna be my man, you gotta understand I've got a problem with car sickness. Like, it's just gonna be a thing. Like, yeah. And he was like, just don't vomit. So rude. But then after that rudeness, he's bounced back and he was a total decent gentleman the rest of the entire time. He was in a gentleman the rest of the entire time. And for me, it's like, what in the world is going on? This guy, then after that date, he leaves these guys are leaving their keys with me or whatever. So he leaves his wallet with me because I had put it in my bag, given that it was bulking out his pockets or whatever, right? By mistake, he leaves it with me. I tell him almost immediately as he's driving away from my complex, but then he's tired. It's the nighttime. He's like, I'll come collect it in the morning if you don't mind. I was like, no, it's fine. So he goes home. The next day we planned to meet so I could give him his wallet. We then planned to meet at Clearwater Mall. And at the Clearwater, I meet, well, actually, no. The next day we planned to, he was planning to come to my apartment, but then he was taking forever and a day to get there. And I had a meeting with a friend of mine, like some kind of, we had to go and purchase books or whatever. I could say it, but I was gonna meet with a girl of mine at the mall. So I was like, look, since it's in this neighborhood, just come to this mall called Clearwater by this JB's corner. Since it was not his neighborhood, I had to like describe landmarks and everything type thing. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be at the mall, so when you are ready to come, just go there and I'll quickly come out to the parking lot and I will give you back your wallet. He was like, sharp. He gets to the mall, he calls me, I'm here, I go right to where he's at. And that day I had gone to church in the morning because I was already considering the things of God, even though I was like 1 foot in the world, 1 foot in Christ. So I'm rocking like basically church attire. Yeah, cute, do whatnot. I'm looking kind of good. Whatever, cool. I go and I meet this guy. Right, I go and I meet him, and he's looking really handsome, nice and tall, stunning, whatnot. Like I told you, I was spazzing hard for this guy. I was gonna leave. I was gonna totally get out of my relationship to be with this guy if he was prepared to be with me, type thing. Anyway, whatever. I go and I meet him, right, and I see him there, and he's looking all like sad. Whatever, doesn't matter. Not doesn't matter, does matter. Why are you sad? Like, what's up? Yeah, what? Fish paste and a bag of potato chips. I give him his wallet. First I hug him, I give him his wallet. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, well then, and then he's like, is there any way where we can sit to get drinks? And I'm like, dude, you did not plan with me. You know, I have a friend, Lana, type thing. I was like, oh no, it's okay. Like, if you've got your friend, then it's cool, whatever. And then he looked at me on some, besides, uphuma kuphi, moya esontweni or what? With that look. I'm out here rocking, like, I'm looking so cute, and he's like, uphuma kuphi, esontweni or what? Like, he's out here teasing my outfit, like I look like a little girl that's wearing a Christmas dress and Jewish. He spoke to me in Gatiking, wow, Jewish. That's South African man for you. He was basically asking me why Jewish. I was like, yeah, I did go to church. And when I said that, he was like, oh. And he was irritated by that because he did not like God. He made that clear to me already early. So that was already a big fat giveaway sign, right? However, when we were walking, then he asked me, so how do I get out of here? I'm like, no, first you gotta check to see if you don't need to pay for parking or whatnot. Likely not, because you've only been here a couple of minutes, but you first gotta put your ticket into that place to check, double check. He's like, oh, so where am I supposed to go? So I walked him to the place where he was going to check for his payment of his parking, a type establishment thing. And as I was walking with him, I was wearing some small little kitten heel, and he was already a tall guy, so he was slightly taller than me, even in that little kitten heel. And then he was like, and this guy, he's like, what's going on? He wearing heels, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm wearing a small little kitten heel. He looks down below and he was like, oh, I prefer my women short. What? Like, this guy, I was like, whoa, did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed or what? What's going on? He literally told me, he looked down. First he dissed my outfit, like, then he was like, with irritation when I told him that I just come from church. And then he looks down at my shoes, realizes that I'm wearing a kitten heel because he saw that I was slightly taller than normal. And then he then says to me while looking dead forward, dead ahead, without even looking at me, on some, oh, I prefer my women short. Almost as though to say, you're not my size anyway, you're not my type anyway. As in, this guy, he was just stabbing me all the way from the time that he arrived at the mall to me, I guess, sending him away after he didn't have to pay for parking. But you get my point. I was right about that. Yeah, but I was just like, I was confused. He was so rude, only for me to discover later that same day that he was going to some overseas trip with Imedia Corner, because I was friends with him on Facebook. And that's when I made a decision that I'm cutting that off altogether. After cutting that whole thing altogether, yeah, the guy then decides, Guti, I'm not going to go and be in love anywhere at all here on the planet. So to basically be stranded romantically and never, ever, ever, ever find love. I mean, I was on and off with my ex at that stage, so he was even sabotaging that. That's South African men for you. Witchcraft, entitled, greedy. Even when they have a woman, they still don't want you marrying anybody. That's just the kind of stuff that results in gender-based violence, of course. Slapping some women. You first start out saying stupid stuff like, I prefer my women short. It's verbal abuse like that of a brand spanking new woman. Like, she's new. You're supposed to be impressing her if at all you want to be with her, but you can be that rude, can't you? Well, thank God, after that guy, I got super serious with Jesus. I did. I ultimately, I went all in. Because I was on the fence at the time. I dove into the kingdom of heaven altogether, and so I did not look back. But nonetheless, irrespective of that, I still got me some sorcery from his hands. That guy was pretty decent, basically for what, in comparison to everything else that I'd ever dealt with. So if that is the height of glory in terms of the quality of our men in this country, we're screwed, aren't we? As women. That's what South African men are like, and yet they're arrogant. They think they're better than everybody, just like South African women think they're better than everyone. So if the quality of our men is so lackluster that South African women have a better experience with other men from Africa, what then is the experience of men with South African women that are not from South Africa? I do not know. I cannot really, I did not have enough, I didn't have any, actually, non-South African black male friends dating South African women and marrying them to get their side of the story as to how they feel. But one thing I know is that this country is full of violence, gender-based violence against women. And the thing that has spurred all this antagonism against the virtue of a country altogether is the attitude of a country. When you think you're great, God will make you whack. Do you understand? When you think you're the best thing since sliced bread, the Lord will make out of you nothing. He will make you hollow, not and ash. It is written in God's word that those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. South Africans did not humble themselves in comparison to all of Africa, so God humbled us. They exalted themselves. Pride comes before a fall, and humility before honor. Do you understand? The lack of humility in South Africa has manufactured evil men, especially within the black community. And I say especially within the black community for no other reason than the fact that I've largely only been dealing with black people, not too much white folk in this country, because of the fact that I'm black and we tended to keep ourselves segregated in silos on the come up, given that we are the generation that was the first to experience the free South Africa. So we were still very much segregated. So I don't have too many experiences with with whites. I don't have too many experiences with non-blacks in terms of real hard knock relationships and observations on a longitudinal study all throughout in my life to be able to make sound conclusions about everybody else in this country. So I cannot blanket paint it, but I have been to a white church, right? I have belonged to a white church that acted a moronic fool, the way that South Africa just typically acts like a moronic fool. And that's the only sample that I have, but it's not, I can't use it blanketly, because in order for you to have a representative sample, you've got to have gathered data from all corners of a particular landscape. And so I can't use that one experience that I had with that church to blanket paint white people. Or you get my point. So right now my opinion is largely about black South Africa, and it is rotten to the core. The women and the men alike. There's nothing cute out here in these streets. They underestimate other African countries, and when you underestimate other people, that's when they slay you. That's when they begin to become better than you. And that's when you one day wake up and realize that literally you ain't got jack in comparison to everybody else. You wake up when it is much too late. And black South African men You pride yourselves in holding women hostage like I'm held hostage right now. But understand, you just look like freaking barbarians now. And the stories that we are all telling about you are not very cute. You keep on butchering women. The stats are worldwide. They are global. It is a global, it's an issue on a global scale. We are known for gender-based violence. It is our crown. So seeing as you are these butchering men, I don't know why under heaven you are still trying to look at me, Ingati, I am an anomaly and a special case, and like I'm not super freaking humiliating. Why? Because I survived the murder that you try to commit against me. And as for your women, these pick-me randos that are sitting around all over the show still besotted with you. That's the thing. That xenophobia that slapped me silly when I was on the come-up, that made it such that even though I got witnesses, testimony, guys, when I was working at, what do you call this, at MTN, let me just get into a final part to tell this.